time.
1,000 people freezing their butts off waiting to worship a rat.
Weatherman Phil Connors is spending the day in Puxatawney, Pennsylvania.
Phil? Ned! Ned Ryerson. I did the whistling belly button trick at the high school talent show.
Bing!
Bang!
But Phil's about to find out he's not just stuck in Puxatawney.
Will you be checking out today, Mr. Connors?
Chance of departure today, 100%.
He's stuck
Groundhog Day!
in Groundhog Day.
I'm reliving the same day over and over.
Phil?
Ned Ryerson?
Bang!
Do you ever have deja vu, Mrs. Lancaster?
I don't think so, but I could check with the kitchen.
Well, it's Groundhog Day. Again?
At first, he was a little anxious.
Phil? What?
Will you be checking out today, Mr. Connors?
I'd say the chance of departure is 80%.
But now,
We could do whatever we want.
he's discovering the possibilities
Don't you worry about cholesterol?
Why?
and living life like there's no tomorrow.
Phil Connors!
Ned!
Because there isn't.
I am an immortal. I have been
I am an immortal. It's true. Although I think they call that, I think vampires are called immortal. Okay, never mind. Didn't anybody see the Twilight series? OMG, guys! I just tuned in because he was really good looking. More than you wanted to know about your minister. So let's move on. Moving on. Okay, how many of you have seen Groundhog Day? Okay, good. If you have not seen it, spoiler alert, I would just say that if you've not seen it by now, shame on you. I mean, we showed it on Friday night, so you easily could have seen it. And if you haven't seen it, it's way past due. So let me tell you all about it today. You know, Groundhog Day has our weatherman, Phil, in the story. And Phil is just the most irritating person to be around. He's very sarcastic, negative, egocentric. It's all about him. He doesn't care a hoot for what everybody else needs. And he's being sent to Punxsutawney to do the little weatherman shtick with the groundhog for the 4th year in a row. So he's there with thinly disguised contempt, doing his report, hops in the van to get the heck out of town, runs into a blizzard, gets stuck in Punxsutawney overnight, and when he wakes up the next morning, it's Groundhog Day again, and again, and again. Not for anybody else, just for him. Just for him. So, of course, he's confused. He's trying to get help. He goes see the doctor. He's trying to understand what's happening, make changes. Nothing works. Then he gets that aha moment. Hey, there's not going to be any consequences to my actions if I keep waking up here tomorrow morning. So, of course, he goes out and does a rampage. He breaks the law. He manipulates. He steals. He does whatever he needs to do in order to make it pleasurable for him. And he is still waking up every morning there and not able to get free of it. He's ultimately starting to fall for his producer, Rita. And she's probably the most wonderful, excellent person on the planet, and he's exactly the opposite. So he's trying to do whatever he can to get to know her so that he can manipulate her into falling for her. So let's take a look and see how it's going.
Can I buy you a drink?
Okay.
Jim Beam, ice, water.
For you, miss?
Sweet vermouth on the rocks with a twist, please.
What are the chances of getting out of town today?
The van still won't start. Larry's working on it.
Oh, wouldn't you know it? Can I buy you a drink?
Okay.
Sweet vermouth, rocks with a twist, please.
For you, miss?
The same. That's my favorite drink.
Mine, too. It always makes me think of Rome. The way the sun hits the buildings in the afternoon.
Well, what should we drink to?
To the groundhog.
I always drink to world peace.
Can I buy you a drink?
Okay.
Sweet vermouth, rocks with a twist, please.
For you, miss?
The same. That's my favorite drink.
Mine, too. It always makes me think of Rome. The way the sun hits the buildings in the afternoon.
Well, what should we drink to?
I like to say a prayer and drink to world peace.
To world peace.
World peace. Amen.
It turns out that she's not changeable. There are certain things he cannot undo here. Let's take a look. Stop it. He's not getting very far, is he? You know, ultimately, he discovers that nothing he does can change her, and he gets so depressed about his life in general, being stuck there, that he decides to just end it all, and he takes his life. Again and again and again. At one point, he even takes the groundhog with him over a cliff. Still wakes up the next morning, not getting out of this problem. So no matter how many times he resists his situation, there's no escape. I'm wondering if you can relate in any small way. Can you relate? Is your life repeating itself over and over and over again? Are you feeling like you're running into the same problems every day, every day, every day? Or the same problem people? No matter how many times you push back, it's like, hitting your head against a block wall. You're going nowhere. And I'm asking you to consider it's time for some new glasses. We're in this series right now, 2020 Perfect Spiritual Vision. It's an opportunity for us to stop looking from the human lenses where all our troubles show up and start looking at life through our spirit's point of view. The problem is most of our human lenses tend to focus on that which is in our way, our obstacles. And therefore, we're going to try and push against it, but no matter how often we do that, I think we're discovering we cannot escape. Have you noticed that? There's a passage in the book of Matthew. Jesus is talking to his disciples that talks about this in an unusual way. He said, "You've heard that it was said to the people long ago, 'Do not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with his brother will be subject to judgment. Therefore, if you're offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your adversary who's taking you to court. Do it while you're still with him on the way, or he may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. And I tell you the truth, you will not get out until you've paid the last penny.'" That sounds like where poor Phil is. And did you notice that you cannot pay any pennies to get out because you can't work, because you're in jail? It's just this little cycle. He said, "You've heard that it was said eye for eye and tooth for tooth, but I tell you, do not resist an evil person." Can we put our metaphysical lenses on with this scripture for a moment? This is an opportunity for us to look beyond the literal story and take a look at some of the elements in the story. What if this whole story that he's telling here is actually happening in your consciousness? That different things in the story, people, experiences are representing different ways that you view life. So what might the adversary be in our consciousness? Anger, ego, fear, resentment, frustration. It's all about adversarial thoughts, yes? Aren't all of those thoughts ones that are pushing against us and getting in our way? So what if we looked at that and realized that as long as we allow our adversarial thoughts to have their way in us, if we don't check them, come to terms with them quickly, then we're just going to keep running into that wall. We're going to wind up in jail, so to speak, trapped inside there with our adversary. And most of us, when we look at it through our human lens and the adversary shows up, it makes perfect sense to push back, to resist, to fight, to defend, to take what you need, to protect yourself. But listen to how Neil Donald Walsh addresses this. He said, when you come to each moment cleanly, without a previous thought about it, you can create who you are rather than reenact who you once were. Life is a process of creation, and you keep living it as if it were a process of reenactment. Come to life, come to your adversarial moments cleanly. What would that be like for you? That when somebody treats you like someone else and someone else and someone else has, that instead of knee-jerk reaction, you come to it with just a pause, just a moment of nothingness, so that you can recreate this in a new way instead of reenact it over and over and over again. That's what poor Phil the weatherman was doing. He was someone who kept changing his tactics to get his way, but never once did he consider changing himself, changing his point of view. So this is the nature of resistance. Resistance is, I'm looking at something, I'm saying that it's wrong, that it shouldn't be, all my shoulds are coming out, I'm pushing against it, and all I'm doing is recreating the problem. Did you know that every time you think you're saying no, don't, you're really saying yes, come on? I'm telling you. Now, tie this to your inner point of view. Don't go ballistic on me here. Just try and stay focused here. When we say, no, they shouldn't have done that, I want it this way, we're really saying, yes, they're doing it. They have power to take my good from me. We're becoming the energy of what we don't want. And when we become that energy, the universe simply responds by mimicking it for you, mirroring it, bringing it back into your face again. So remember that your adversary is not really the person or the situation out here. It's how you are looking at it, how you're emotionally responding to it, what kind of energy you're giving to it. Phil, no matter how many times he resisted, and no matter how many times he tried to change his circumstances, he was coming at it not from new points of view, but the same inner view. I am the most important person here, and you all need to serve me, but you are not. The universe is resisting me. How dare it? And each time he did that, he was basically saying, yes, you have power over me. You're taking my good. That's why he was stuck there. He was trapped there because he was recreating this over and over again for himself. But no matter what action he took, he couldn't get free. And this is an important statement that I think Esther Hicks has made. No amount of action in the world can save us from consequences of negative energy. Will you say that with me? No amount of action in the world can save us from consequences of negative energy. I'm not saying don't take action. I'm not saying don't walk away from a problem if it's not in your face or not going away. I'm saying be mindful of the energy that you're using to deal with it. How many times have you voted in an election against what you don't want? I've seen elections turn out where even though it looks like the majority was going this way, it wound up to be this way. And I'm honestly thinking it's because the energy that the majority voted with was something against this instead of for what you want. We have an election coming up. Do you even know what you're for, or do you only know what you're against? Just saying. What resistance do you want to put out there? and recreate in your experience. I do it in simple, everyday things. I make matters worse. I feel that you pay me to do this, that it's my job, so that I may come back and report to you how not to do things. So this latest thing was that there was oil on my garage floor under my car. And I had just had the oil changed. So my shoulds came out. They should have done a better job at changing that oil. I've never had a problem with a Honda before. What in the world is going on here? I'm going to have to take all my time and ride back over to Jiffy Lube. Oh, I shouldn't have said that out loud. And get them to fix this. What a waste. How could they? They shouldn't. Okay, can you relate to that? So really, total grace for me to end up at Jiffy Lube and have them say, oh, it was just a little gasket. We changed it, no charge. Okay, so it just kind of took away my extra time, but that's okay. I come home a couple days later, more oil on the garage floor. So now I'm getting really frustrated. I'm not going back there again. I'm going to go to the big boys, where they will charge me way more money. So now it's more shooting, it's more complaining, it's more victim, it's more, why is this happening to me? How dare they? This car, I buy Hondas. I even told them, I buy Hondas all the time specifically so I don't have these problems. Just in that tone of voice, I did. Just kidding. No, it wasn't quite that bad. I was just kind of joking with him. Okay, so long story short, it took me a couple tries to get this right because I was in a resistant mode. It wasn't until I went with, okay, the part won't be here till tomorrow. Let me just go at this from a non-resistant point of view and see what happens. It made a whole lot of difference in my experience. How many times do we do that where we drag our pain out by resisting the situation instead of just getting to neutral? You need to take action, you need to do things or go places or respond to people, but can we do it from a more neutral point of view? Some of us, let me just tell you what Imelda Shanklin says. She says, if you distrust others, your distrust is proof that you doubt the integrity of the universe. We resist omnipotence when we do not accept that with God, all things are possible. Now, God's always there, but it doesn't become possible until you and God are connected. Leave your gift at the altar because you cannot make that connection to spirit as long as you're going to resist what's happening to you. The number one thing that we are resisting in our life is ourselves. That right there could set you way back for a lifetime. In any situation, you think, when people resist you because you're not good looking enough, or you don't have enough money, or you're not prosperous enough, or you don't have enough education, it's their fault. But the truth is, how in the world can anyone respond to you with acceptance if you don't begin by accepting yourself? If you're resisting your own nature, and most of us do it, we cannot expect the world to show us anything different. It's something that we probably all experience every other day or so in our life. Even poor Phil mentioned, I don't know why I expect her to love me. I don't even love myself. Aha! The cause behind everything else that was happening to him. So come to terms with the adversary quickly. I want to kind of run through a process with you that might help you get there. And the first is to notice that you're even feeling like there is an adversary. And you're going to notice it when you're experiencing emotional resistance of some kind. It feels negative within. You feel yucky, basically. Many of you may not be able to name an emotion, but I'm asking you to at least notice when it starts up. And as you become aware of it, either through your thoughts or your words or the feelings that are coming up in you, I'm going to ask you to just grab one thought. Just start with one thought at a time and take a good look at it and notice what it's trying to say to you or where the fear is or what you're pushing against. You want to catch that very first pebble of discomfort before it becomes an avalanche and overwhelms you. And get a hold of it so that you can notice from a new present moment point of view. Rather than get that pebble in front of you and react like you have every single time that this kind of situation has shown up for you, instead try just taking a breath, looking at it with some light on it, and saying, is there another way that I can approach this? Now, for some of us, we wait too long, and we're now buried under an avalanche of negative emotion. So I'm going to offer something that may not feel good, but ultimately will do you some good, in my opinion. And if this gets out of hand, then you need to come see me, and we'll work out something else. But I'm going to ask you to consider feeling the emotion, giving yourself permission to just sit with it and see what it really is. Where am I feeling this negative emotion in my body? Does it feel like it's strangling me? Is my heart palpitating? Is it a sickness in my stomach? Do I feel shaky in my legs? Do I want to scream? Do I want to cry? Am I frozen? Do I want to strangle somebody? Try and put a name on it even. What emotion is this? So now you're giving it some more light. And as we do that, it starts to bring you into the present moment. You're no longer busy thinking about how this happened or where it's going. You're just present, feeling it. And that gives you a sense or an opportunity for you to do the next thing, which is to become this observer of it. See yourself rising up above your body and that emotional person there. And just try this. Huh, isn't that interesting? Everyone say that. Huh. Isn't that interesting? Let's just see if you can do that. This is where we get to be objective, more honest with what's really happening. If we're able to do it without the emotion attached so much, we can ask some good questions like, is this true? Is what I'm thinking about this person or situation really true? Is this person or situation, this death warrant that seems to be at my door, is it really here right now in this moment? Is somebody beating me up right now? Is somebody making me sleep out on the street right now? Do I have a death sentence that I'm about to die? Am I on the death table right now? If we recognize that most of our troubles are not really happening in this moment and we come back to present, it takes some of the edge off. So is it happening right now? Are my thoughts about it true, really honestly true? Or maybe if you are convinced that they are true, you might ask yourself, are they helpful? Are my thoughts about this helpful? Am I at the place where I need to be right when I'd rather be happy? From this observer point of view, you might just want to ask if Spirit sees it this way. This is kind of the last step of this process, is how does Spirit see this? When God looks at this, is God upset about that person or that situation? Does God feel fear? Is God resisting? Does God have judgment about this? Pretty much sure the answer is no. Spirit looks at any situation from the point of infinite possibilities. Spirit sees every person involved from the point of there is goodness here, and I'm here to harmonize the good within it so that it works together in harmony. Spirit's not looking at this as this is a problem. Spirit is looking at this as this is an opportunity to create. Well, when you get to that place where you can kind of go through those steps and settle down a bit, now you're basically able to come to the altar because you've reconciled. You can come to the altar and make your connection to Spirit, and then you're open and receptive to your guidance as to what actual steps you should take. Imelda Shanklin said that non-resistance commands omnipotence. That is huge. When we move into an energy of allowing, we're literally doing this. Non-resistance is God living you in holiest manifestation. That's what non-resistance is. That's powerful. Can we get to that point? Our poor weatherman Phil was looking through human lenses, the lens of the ego, and when he got stuck there, he only saw that he must force others to give him what he needed, and that it appeared the entire universe was against him. That's his human point of view. But we go back to what Esther Hicks said, no amount of action in the world can save us from consequences of negative energy. So he learned that even his death couldn't stop this. That was the moment when he started considering maybe someone else's life is as important as mine. He started to offer himself as a servant to others just to see how this would go. And the more that he did that, the more good that he offered to others, the more times he set aside his needs for someone else's, the better he started to feel. And at some point, his vision changed and he realized that his good had been here all the time. He saw how good life could be and that he didn't need to leave. And let's take a look and see at this prime moment what he learned.
Is it finished yet?
Almost. I still have to put some cherry syrup on the top, and then we can eat it.
Come on, Phil. I'm freezing.
1 second. All right. Now let me turn the light.
It's amazing. It's beautiful. How did you do that?
I know your face so well, I could have done it with my eyes closed.
It's lovely. I don't know what to say.
I do. No matter what happens tomorrow, or for the rest of my life, I'm happy now. Because I love you.
I think I'm happy too.
Oh. He's finally found freedom. He wakes up the next morning and it's February 3rd, and life can move on. He found that his good was there all the time, and that when he gave up resistance, when he realized his only obstacle was his point of view about the obstacles, then he was free. He could move on. And I'm offering to each one of us that our opportunity for freedom is always right here in the present moment. It's just about what you are resisting with your point of view, what you are giving meaning to that is not really true in the eyes of spirit. Your resistance is saying that this has power over me, but in the same moment, you could choose to allow, to refocus, to look at how spirit looks at it and say, there's good here. I am willing to see the good. I am willing to work for the good. I'm willing to be the good. And that's when we are set free, laying down the resistance. One last thing from Gary Simmons. He said, non-resistance is the seat of wholeness and the contact point between heaven and earth, between the field of infinite possibilities and the needs of the particular situation. That's pretty powerful too. That simply allowing opens up our hearts and minds to the resources needed, the guidance of where we should take our steps and what we should do.